Lady Shiva is one of those characters who was never quite allowed to take the centre stage, but always leaves an impression. She's not a criminal mastermind or a grim anti-hero, and she's not particularly interested in justice. But when she shows up, she fights better than anyone else in the room, and she's gone before anyone realises what has happened. Across the comics, she's been a rival, a mentor, a mother, and occasionally even a hired killer. But in Beware the Batman, all of that history is stripped away. There's no guilt or regrets. Just loyalty to the League of Assassins and the sword that steals souls. It's a very different take, and one that says a lot about how that show approached Batman's world. But before I get to that, I think it's important to look back at her comic book origins. Lady Shiva first appeared in Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter No. 5, published in 1976. At the time, DC Comics' publishing line was more diverse, with war stories, horror stories, westerns, and yes, kung fu comics. Her name was Sandra Wusan, and she adopted the identity of Lady Shiva after her sister Carolyn was murdered. She spent years training to become a deadly fighter because she wrongly blamed Richard Dragon for Carolyn's death. Dragon was a great fighter, and the only way she'd be able to get her revenge was if she became a better one. When the two fought, she soon realised that Dragon was not the killer and that she had been misled. As such, she joined Dragon on his mission, hoping to put her talents to good use. Following Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1986, when most of DC's continuity was reset, Lady Shiva was reinvented as the world's deadliest assassin, or at least one of them. She had been hired to kill reporter Vic Sage, also known as The Question, but when she saw his raw fighting spirit, she decided not to kill him and instead sent him to train with her old colleague Richard Dragon. That tension between destruction and elevation is a recurring theme with Lady Shiva. Yes, she killed people, mostly bad people though, and didn't have a problem beating up good people, but she lived by her own code. If she saw something in you, she would help you to bring it out. She was treated like the final boss of sorts, and if you made a strong enough impression on her, she would pass her knowledge on to you. Very few people have beaten her in a straight one-on-one fight. The list includes Richard Dragon, Batman, Batgirl, and Black Canary. Because of her great skill and her moral ambiguity, Shiva acted as a resource for the heroes. She was responsible for training the third Robin, Tim Drake. She paired up with Black Canary to hone her skills. When Batman recovered from breaking his back, Shiva helped him regain his confidence. But her biggest contribution was her daughter, Cassandra Cain, who became the third Batgirl. After Crisis on Infinite Earths, her origin was reworked slightly. Sandra and her sister had both been skilled martial artists, but the assassin David Kane felt that Carolyn was holding Sandra back. So he did what assassins do. He murdered Carolyn. Sandra sought revenge and tracked Kane down, defeating his fellow League of Assassins members, but she couldn't best him. It was at this point that she realised that he had been right. Her love for Carolyn had been holding her back, and Kane offered to help her transcend her limitations. And she accepted his offer. Part of her metamorphosis involved the pair having a child, who she would abandon an hour after giving birth, freeing her from emotions and allowing her to become Lady Shiva. Now their daughter Cassandra had a unique upbringing. Her mother was entirely absent and she was never taught to speak. Instead, Cassandra was taught to read people's body language and communicated through violence. But Shiva had an ulterior motive for breeding the greatest fighter. She wanted her daughter to become strong enough to kill her because she wanted to die at the hands of someone better than her. She had killed countless people, to the point that she had a following, fanatics who built shrines to her because they believed she was the living embodiment of the god of destruction. In reality, she was endlessly looking for someone to bring her down. The irony was that Cassandra's cruel upbringing had given her a death wish of her own, which was the last thing Shiva wanted for her daughter. Lady Shiva is not a significant character, but she has a strong connection to Batman, so it's probably not all that surprising that she wound up with a significant role in 2011's Beware the Batman cartoon. As I've said before, this show's creative team wanted to spotlight some lesser-known Batman rogues like Anarchy and Professor Pig. And when they introduced Ra's al Ghul, they made some significant changes. He wasn't an eco-terrorist, he was a gangster. There was no subplot involving him wanting Batman to marry his daughter. He was far more streamlined, a ruthless criminal that wanted to hold on to power for as long as possible. And his right-hand person was Lady Shiva, here completely reimagined. She was still a deadly martial arts expert who commanded respect, but all of her backstory was stripped away. As far as we could tell, she didn't have a daughter. Her entire personality was rooted in serving Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. She was given quite a distinctive look as well, with a pink bejeweled midriff exposing outfit and headpiece. She's ethnically ambiguous but has an English accent, and very little is revealed about her. She's even-tempered and a bit sadistic. When she uses the Soul Taker sword to fell her enemies, she can't help but smirk. She clearly stands out among the League's other members. She's a towering woman and her outfit implies that she has status within the organisation. Most other members wear black or grey uniforms, while Shiva and Ra's al Ghul have brightly coloured clothes. And there's a very good reason why she was able to rise through the ranks. She's a powerful fighter and is completely merciless. When Silver Monkey attempted to steal the Soul Taker sword for himself, Silver Monkey's forces bowed to Shiva and turned on him at her command. The sword contained the soul of Ra's al Ghul, while his lifeless body was in stasis, and this was the secret to his immortality in this show. She could have easily done what Silver Monkey had planned to do, take the sword for herself and rule the League of Assassins, but she was completely loyal to Ra's. When Anarchy stole Ra's body, she complied with his demands in order to get it back. She could have easily beaten him to death for that transgression, but getting her master's body back was her #1 priority. So instead, she willingly became a pawn in Anarchy's game with Batman. She took 2 ninjas with her to a lab in Gotham and exposed them to a chemical that turned them into hulking monster men. Anarchy planned to expose Batman to the chemical to turn him into a beast, and Shiva played along. However, when Batman was able to get a cure and ended the threat, Shiva's role was complete, so she vanished. True to his word, Anarchy returned Rash's body, although he made sure that Shiva wasn't home when he did. Lady Shiva is one of the few people to wield the Soul Taker sword, using it to kill Stephanie Ravencroft and Jason Burr, damning their souls to eternal torment, at least until Batman released them all to defeat Ra's al Ghul. What happened to Lady Shiva is left deliberately vague. She's last seen getting kicked in the face by Katana, and then spends the rest of the episode passed out. Presumably she was arrested, but given how vast the League of Assassins is supposed to be, there's a good chance that she didn't remain in prison for very long. And with Ra's al Ghul out of the picture, who better to carry on his legacy than his mighty right fist? Sadly, the show wasn't renewed for a second season, so we never found out. I don't think it's unfair to say that Lady Shiva of Beware the Batman is a phantom of her former self. She's still deadly, still commanding, but stripped of the pain, parenthood, and most of her individuality. In this incarnation, she's less a person and more a pillar of the League of Assassins, and an instrument of Ra's al Ghul's will. It seems like she was brought in to fulfill a similar role to Talia al Ghul, just without the romancing Batman angle. And maybe that's the most telling thing about this version of Lady Shiva. In a show that prided itself on showcasing more obscure villains, she became a blank space with a blade. Her presence was powerful, but her past was erased, with no daughter, no trauma or inner conflict. She was defined by her loyalty and her propensity for violence, which is fine, but when the story was done with her, she vanished. The second half of the series pretty much dropped all references to the League of Assassins, and as such Lady Shiva doesn't have a role to play anymore. In the comics, Lady Shiva was a contradiction. She trained heroes but had no interest in becoming one. She wanted her daughter to kill her but couldn't bring herself to die. She was violent but never chaotic. In this show, she's just a loyal lieutenant. Functional, intimidating, maybe a little forgettable. In fact, I actually have to keep reminding myself that she is supposed to be Lady Shiva and not one of Ra's al Ghul's daughters. That's not to say that it's a bad interpretation, just a limited one. Lady Shiva has always been a supporting character, but when her story is told well, she supports something bigger. A moral dilemma, a complicated legacy, a daughter she hopes will be stronger than she ever was. In Beware the Batman, she holds a sword and serves a master, but elsewhere, she's something much harder to define and far more dangerous because of it. In this version, she gets knocked out by Katana. In the comics, she would have seen that coming. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my channel members. Everyone who was a member at the time of this video's creation is listed on the screen right now. If you want to see your name amongst all these wonderful people, join the channel now. Next time I'll be back on Friday to talk about one of the strongest episodes of Superman the Animated Series, where the Man of Steel heads to Gotham City in its hour of need. Yes, it's the Batman crossover episode that doesn't feature Batman. It's nighttime. And next Monday, it'll be time to talk about the winner of my recent The Batman villain poll. We're going to be talking about one of the few original characters from that show, the digitally enhanced villain emulator, Dave. Hope to see you then.